Hey guys, I've got an exciting video for you today because today I have with me Dave Wyatt from EmpiresPast.com. We have him coming in to authenticate. Look at all these helmets we have. These all came from one collection. I don't know anything about these helmets. Now I know you find that surprising, but Dave is here, we'll call him the expert because he knows more than any of us. We got a little bit of everything here. I see a Luftwaffe right here. You can see the Luftwaffe Eagle. I like this one. Reminds me of trench art. That was World War I, but this is some GI took a German helmet, put his insignia on it. And Dave, you have a paratrooper over there. Now that one I'm gonna drool on. Speaking of trench art, here's one from World War I. Anyway, we're gonna go into a little bit of detail on these. We also have some Japanese helmets, far fewer, but we'll talk about some of these. So don't go anywhere because we're all gonna learn something today. Okay, first and foremost, thanks for coming out.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
How far away are you?
About an hour and a half.
So it was well worth it. It's well worth it for us. Dave Wyatt is here to help us with some of these helmets. I mentioned before, I don't know a whole lot about them. So one of the questions I get, we get a lot of young collectors, which I just love. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. It's educational. Young collectors a lot of times can't afford the guns that I'm selling. A Luger at $2,500. Is probably a starting point. But if somebody wants to get into collecting these helmets, first of all, buyer beware. You can talk a little bit about that. But what kind of price ranges are we talking about?
It can vary pretty greatly. So, I mean, beginner helmets are usually, they'll start at $400. And then, I mean, you can get all the way up into the high category and you start pushing 75 to 100,000. Now, they're few and far between. Because obviously, when you get to that kind of number,
do we have one here?
We don't have. I wish you did, but
okay. Well, good. So there's a little. It's a good place to get started, and you don't need ATF or any regulations. No. You just ship these through the mail.
That's right.
What about shipping overseas?
That's where it becomes tricky.
Okay.
So Germany, you're not supposed to send it in unless you have special permissions or permits. France doesn't like it. A lot of the European countries don't like it. Belgium is okay. Holland is okay. England is okay. Australia has become another one that you're not allowed to sell this for profit. So sending it down to Australia, that's become risky.
What happened to freedom in the world? What do you mean you can't collect helmets? That's because you could bang somebody over the head with this.
You know what? Actually, let me clarify that. The helmet itself is fine. It's the swastikas on the helmet. That's where the problem lies. So if you deface it,
then it's okay.
Yeah, you don't want to do that though.
Speaking of swastikas, why don't you show us examples of a few?
So this is an M35, and this is the first helmet that the Germans developed right before the Second World War, after the original style helms of the First World War. And the way that we tell these from other models is we have the rolled rim here, separately attached vent hole. These use the M31 liner system with aluminum bands. So these are generally a lot nicer made than the later examples. This is also called it's like a moly steel. Later in the war, they stopped using moly steel because they needed it for tanks. So this is actually a harder steel in the M35s. M35s also generally have two decals, one on each side, typically consisting of a party shield or political shield, and then the branch, and this is a police helmet.
Does it, while you're talking about the rivets, so does it help to compare the differences?
Yeah, actually.
I'll hold this one.
That's a good idea. So this is an M17 World War I helmet. You can see that they have the lug vent holes, whereas this is more simplified. The shape got smaller, it got sleeker. This was actually a little bit easier to produce than these, and it provided more protection, and it's actually a lot stronger than this because they designed it as such.
Okay. And I've seen this paint before. Is that original? I know people put their names on it. That's not original. Is that kind of style of paint, is that original?
Well, it's period per se. So the U.S. veteran actually camouflaged this helmet using the German paint itself, and then wrote where he was and the dates that he was there.
Oh, that's cool.
They did a lot of this at the end of the war. As pretty much as war souvenirs.
Yeah, I'll get a close-up of this. This is what he was talking about. He just where he was, and you can kind of go through the history of this GI in World War I. Yeah, there's a date, 1918. That's pretty cool. All right, what else do you have?
All right, so the next model will be the M40, and this came out in 1940, and they changed the helmet just in a little way where it's now a stamped helmet with an integral vent hole. So instead of it being a separately attached vent, it's now a part of the shell itself. The paint changed to a Feldgrau, so it's a little bit more matte, more camouflage, because these apple green ones, they just kind of glared in the sun and stuck out. The liner system also changed from aluminum banded to steel. It's stronger, it costs less to produce. And then the main thing, we now only have one decal, which is the branch decal, and this is a Luftwaffe decal with no tricolor or party shield on the other side. But what's cool about this is that they used the vet used a German equipment strap, cut it down and sewed it so he could stuff foliage in it for camouflage.
Oh.
Just a hasty way to...
Yeah, it's right there. Foliage right there.
Yep.
And if the leaves are turning yellow, you can put yellow leaves in there.
That's right.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know why that was there.
Didn't have to keep painting them. About 2 years later, they came up with the M42 design. Pretty much as the war was dragging on, they needed to pump these things out faster and cheaper. So they stopped rolling the edges, number one. Vents, they stayed integral. The earliest ones, by mid-1943, they actually stopped doing decals altogether on these helmets. So you will find some of these that have no decals at all. But what's really special about this one is, this is an Army helmet, but it is also an RAD helmet. So the RAD never received any combat helmets from the factories. They were always requisitioned from the Luftwaffe or the Army, and these decals were put on. So these are quite rare to find, especially when you have the RAD and the Army decal, because usually they would just apply them over them.
Some people may not know what the RAD is.
Reichsarbeitsdienst, it's the labor force.
Labor force. So they built the Western Wall and
yes,
the fortifications for Normandy and all up and down the coast. I actually visited those this summer. Yeah, let me get a close-up. When he said rolled and unrolled, so you see the one at the top has what he called the rolled rim. I didn't know any of this, by the way, guys, so if you're thinking, duh, and there's no roll. So that would be cheaper and easier, as you said, to kick them out a little more quickly. Well, good. I learned something today.
Now we get into, this is probably one of the most desired of the German helmets, and this is the M38 paratrooper helmet. So this is an earlier type. It's not as early as a double decal, so this is after 1940 specifications, has the Feldgrau paint, and this one's smoother, so it's a little bit earlier. Has a single decal Luftwaffe and the early spanner bolts. So later on, they went to aluminum, and they were slotted just like a flathead screwdriver could fit in. You didn't need a special tool. These have the M38 liner system. It's aluminum banded with the neoprene pads. A lot of times these things harden up and they'll start kind of falling out, but this one's actually held together well. What's nice about this one too is it has all of its chin strap intact. A lot of times these things will just, they'll become weak and start cracking apart, or they've been cut. A lot of the KIAs or wounded guys, the GIs would just come up with their bayonets and cut the straps. But this is a really nice untouched example.
And of course it does not, for those of you who can't see the contrast. You can see how on this one it's cut down, whereas this is, I guess, round all the way around. It's just a different style, and I know that from paratroopers just because I watch a lot of movies about World War II. Okay, so just for equal time, we also have a couple of Japanese examples. I'm assuming what I notice is people don't really collect American helmets very much. And they don't collect very many Japanese helmets, but I do see a lot of German helmet collectors. Is that true?
It's kind of true. More people gravitate towards the German stuff, and there are more collectors for the German stuff than the Japanese stuff. American stuff, though, it's picking up in popularity. There's actually quite a lot of collectors of American helmets, and it really just depends on, you know, what type of helmet it is, if it's division painted, if it's a paratrooper. Paratroopers are always desired. But Japanese is also quite popular as well.
You have a good example here, I think.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid, this is just a solid Japanese Army helmet with their olive green paint. There's some paint remnants on the star, so this star is originally applied to it. You can see where it hasn't been cracked off or removed. And the Japanese, they really didn't have a good liner system like the Germans did, so really all it is it's a leather band with some leather pads, very similar to what you see on the World War I German helmets.
Okay. And then I picked out, Dave didn't pick this out. I picked this, actually these two, because they're just pretty. That's my criteria. They're just kind of pretty. So this somebody has jazzed it up a bit.
Yeah. So this one's really neat. This caught my attention. So whoever did this had a lot of skill as an artist, because they did a really good job. You can see the battleship here. But if you look up the USS Bayfield, Bayfield was a troop transport carrier, and they participated on the D-Day landings in Normandy. Mm-hmm. Then they were moved to the Pacific. They took part of the D-Day landings on Iwo Jima, and then in Okinawa. And then after the war, they were a part of the Bikini Atoll nuclear testing. So that ship saw quite a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's what I liked with this. And it shows Okinawa.
And he must have been from Detroit, because he put Detroit in there. Whoever the sailor, not soldier, sorry, whoever the sailor was, he was from Detroit, and he served on that ship. So he painted it up. That's very cool. And I gravitated to this one just because it has, again, we have the GIs, they signed it. It's Japanese and no liner at all. But we had some Nazi flags. We did a couple videos about Nazi flags where all the guys got around and signed it and took it home. So somebody, they all have the same handwriting, so somebody took all of their buddies in their unit, put all their names on it, and brought it back as a souvenir from the war. Okay, well, there's a lot more that we could cover. I have a ton of helmets, but guess what, guys? The best way for you to find out about these helmets is try out our websites. Legacy-Collectibles, as you know, we will have most of these and a few others. And then Dave's going to have empirespast.com. If you go to the description below, we'll put his website in there. Make sure you click on that and see some of the other goodies that he has. Thanks so much for coming, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll have you back real soon.
Sounds good.